players that would instantly lock that champion. A little bit of a cane hover there to shout Canyon out. Viego, another really powerful carry jungle in the current meta. And they're going to round it out with Varus. I expect DRX here. They could just select a full top side here, picking their jungler to match the Viego. Something like Graves could work really well. But with the Sejuani, you really want a melee jungler. So picking AD carry here is also an option.
Debating. Scrolling through the options, it is going to be the Camille. Strong pick, certainly when you can back it up with double bans as well. A lot of the counters can just be taken off the board. Kingen, notorious carry player, not necessarily always getting the attention in draft, but this time around they're willing to sacrifice bot lane on the side of DRX just to make sure that he has a comfortable matchup, and already the Renekton taken off the board.
I wonder if they ban away Jax. Doran doesn't really have any Jax games in summer. GP could be a good ban depending on what AD carry they're looking for. If they're looking for something immobile, but they're actually just going to leave a Renekton ban and then start the target towards bot lane. Renata's so powerful. We saw it from T1 yesterday, the Varus Renata bot side. Ashe taken away from Deft. His options getting slimmer and slimmer here. Aphelios still up. Could be a fallback for him, but we've seen a plethora of champions from Deft. They're not afraid to play things like Ezreal Karma. We've seen his MF, we've seen his Tristana, we've seen his Draven. Even though he had not had a single win on it back against the wall, he was confident enough to pull it out. So I think DRX have a lot of champions to choose from. There's the Karma ban to stop the Ezreal Karma push into this Varus.
And I like it because they've taken away two of the champions who are so good at taking lane priority. Varus, notoriously strong early game, Karma and Ashe. Two of the champions that really can contest him now. We're going to see the Misfortune locked in. This champion, in the hands of most of this tournament, has looked lackluster. Ruler himself, alongside Lehens, pulling it out and looking clean against down 1 Kia last week. We'll see if Deft can repeat some of that success and what the pairing is going to be alongside Beryl.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going into the realm of melee supports here. Lulu is up, but I'm not sure if they want to go for something like the Varus Lulu. We saw how vulnerable Lulu can be against champions like Camille with the full dive. Varus Tahm Kench is a much better option to keep your Varus safe against the Camille, so your support is a lot more beefy and a lot less likely to get picked off. Now it's just a case of top lane. Does he go for something like the GP? Jax is a good pick, Fiora is a good pick, but these aren't really the champions that we've seen out of Doran. We've mostly seen, the likes of Camille and Renekton and Maokai and Gnar, but he is going to be confident enough to lock the Fiora in. I think that's his first Fiora game of summer.
And when we talk about Doran, we talk so often about team play and team fighting. His laning phase is solid, yes, but there we are. Soraka going to be the cog here against the Tahm Kench. The silence incredibly powerful. And again, more curveballs being thrown by the DRX bottom lane.
Oh, you love to see it. Going for the Soraka there. Normally in the Tahm Kench lanes, I see the Varus Tahm actually get pushed into the Soraka, but the Soraka will be so powerful in keeping the front line alive. And DRX have a little bit of dive with, of course, the Camille Sejuani. And with the Camille ult, we saw yesterday from T1, you could pick Nami and Lucian with the Camille. And as the Camille would ult, the Nami ult would come over the top of that. Here you've got an MF ult and a Soraka silence that can come over the top of that as well. So they don't have as much dive to follow up, but they have the range of abilities and ultimates to help Kingen out when he singles out that one target.
And that is an alpaca in the audience. Pleasure to see you, sir. Don't know how you got out of the petting zoo, but you're more than welcome here. Of course, in this first game, lane phase is going to be massive because we really need to see if some of those explosive discrepancies are going to show themselves. Peanut, of course, struggled against Canyon, but Canyon, best in the world. They're going to have to see if Pyosha is up to the task to match him in this game. Peanut, notorious for creative early game pass.
P in the mid jungle will make it so Chobi's life is a little bit easier. But here we are, Game 1, Gen G DRX semi-finals.
Loving the crowd here in Atlanta. Every game significant. Remember, DRX have not beaten Gen G this year. It's about small steps. DRX have yet to falter, finding the reverse sweep, finding their way out of every single stage. We'll see if they can do that again today. But tracking the early game, again, early pathing, early impact in these lanes is going to be so important as we move on. I think more often than not, we're very used to talking about mid and bot lane when you look at these two teams. But with the Camille locked in, with the potential for Sejuani to go topside, we're also going to have to pay some attention to Kingen and Doran as well.
Definitely are. I think topside is going to be the majority of the focus. Oftentimes when you're a jungler and you don't have many options in lanes, I mean, Peanut's right here, bot lane is not a great option, a little bit of setup. But topside, you need to cover your Fiora. In the 2v2 you might lose, but you need to make sure at least you're around to stop any kind of pushing out waves, to set up ganks, any kind of dives if Camille gets good wave states. So both junglers will path towards the top side of the map. There's the pink ward level 1 place down there from Pyosik, I believe it was, in the river, just to make sure there's no level 2, level 3 shenanigans towards mid onto Zeka. There's also a ward on the other side of the entrance, so Zeka will have a lot of information to work with. And bot push will be contested. Oftentimes you see Tom Kench get the stacks to actually get the push in, so that's why, despite being in a range disadvantage, they can start to push the first couple of waves.
And that's why early vision can be so incredibly crucial, just getting control of those bot lane brushes, stopping Tom Kench from using his ludicrously high base stats, as we saw Keria do so well earlier in the tournament. For now, though, a relatively quiet laning phase. Zek getting level 2 first, big health advantage over Chovy. For now, just a bit of a pressure advantage, might be able to deny a few CS here. On the bottom side, of course, Death and Barrel doing everything they can to get level 2 first.
Really good trades there by Zeka. Pyosik will be first to level 3. He's done Blue Grump Wolves, so he'll be level 3 moving into the top side if he wants to look for invades, but top wave's not in a great state, and he doesn't have information on the enemy jungler, so we're probably expecting full clears from both sides here. But mid is under pressure. That pink ward could pay dividends there if Peanut went into bot river and tried to gank Zeka, but Zeka has so much information so that he can trade so aggressively onto Chovy and start to queue forward. That's the thing with the Azir. The second you queue forwards, majority of your escape is gone.
Certainly is. Something we'll have to track, of course, now that level 3 is here as well, has access to the shifting sands, the E, allow him to get back out to safety for the most part, but would want to extend that dash if necessary. Ruler and Lahen's clearing out what they can while they wait for the wave to crash, knowing they're not really in a position to contest right at this moment. Of course, you can see Def not opting for a second combat sum, opting instead to take the cleanse. Once level 6 comes around for Ruler, it's going to be so much harder for DRX to weather the storm in the bottom lane.
A little bit more setup then, isn't there? So Peanut can pay a visit. Right now he's going for a full clear. Looks like Pyosik's going to focus on his Krug, so he'll get to level 4, whereas Peanut wants to secure this early crab. Now that does mean if Pyosik bases and goes to bot side, he should be able to trade. Otherwise, Peanut, if he has the information, will look to double crab. So level up comes through. What's Pyosik's decision here? Does he base? Does he move towards mid? Does he move towards top? Looks like he's going to queue over the wall here, but the crab's already gone.
Looking for the angle.
But he is being sneaky here. They didn't spot him with the sweeper plant. This is an amazing position for the Sejuani. If he can just wait a little bit, hug this wall, and sneak up the side here, they could have setup onto Doran. Oh my god!
Oh! No, they spot him! Okay, wait, did they back up? Did they know? Yes, they do. Doran walking away.
Yeah, pings are coming down. Splinter Cell failed this time around, but Doran walked up with a creep.
Stepping forward, keep your eyes on the parry. That's going to be everything. The riposte is going to go. Initially getting locked up. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the stacks. Waiting it out. They're going to lock up Doran now, but they don't have the follow-up. Now Peanut into the thick of it. 3 stacks on him. 4th. Not quite going to come out. DRX backing away, top lane and jungle matching each other.
Really good patience there from Kingen. He actually uses the hook shot to go in front of Doran, intentionally missing him, knowing that he will riposte, so he actually gets distance in front of him to force his flash. Wave will crash, Kingen will get a good base, and that could have backfired incredibly quickly if the ward wasn't placed in river and just spotted out Pyosik at the last second of it. Bot Crab is still up though, and Pyosik knows it. He's gone for the boots early, and he's trying to run down there to pick that up as quickly as possible. TP back from every solo laner right now so far, except for Kingen, who still needs to take that base. Deft and Ruler coming out of base as well.
Tracking the itemization as well. Early Sheen for Fiora, no effective combat stats, but does have the passive. Has that extra damage to come through in the trades. See what DRX can do with that advantage on the top side of the map, having that flash down, having that TP down, and while the TPs will be traded, we're looking at a 5-minute window where Doran's going to feel much more vulnerable, but it is one they have to capitalize on. It's unrealized advantage yet.
It is, and King will take that base. 2v2 will always be in favor of the Camille Sejuani as long as neither of them makes the mistake of fighting into the Fiora riposte. You know, Sejuani needs to time her E so that Fiora can't W it with range, and Camille can never use her hookshot into the Fiora if it's up. Patience is key when you're playing against Fiora, so DRX showing it already. Bot's wave will push in there. DRX had a small window for Drake if they had bot push, but they don't right now, so abandoning that call. Pyosik's just going to go for another full clear towards top side. The closer he gets to level 6, the easier it is to make these plays.
Certainly the case, and you can see on the early backs, Ruler opting instead of going for something like Sustain to match out the Bamsa from the side of Deft, opting for triple longsword, just extra AD, trying to push more of the individual advantage in trades. Varus notoriously super oppressive, courtesy of the slow, the extra damage coming through on the procs as well.
Looking at pings here, I think DRX were scared of some kind of top dive. The wave was crashing and there was a lot of assistance pings, so Pyosik's around. Kingen doesn't have to sweat too much, and Doran will take a base on that crashing wave. You can see these things happen where you get mid-push, you go into fog of war on one side, and all of a sudden that side lane is incredibly scared. But in actual essence, what you're doing is just basing anyway. So that's just a pressure point that you can use to keep your base timers up, and that'll help Doran get a base lead onto Kingen. Bot lane trading a little bit. Of course, the Soraka has really good sustain the more Qs she lands. I think he might be maxing Q there, the amount of damage that just did.
Definitely good to have. Peanut now fishing for some sort of play here, just on the bottom side. Ruler coming up as well. Chovy with a stolen a 0. If Piosik's in the area, that's a massive man advantage for the side of Gen G if they do want to go for this play. Peanut now stepping forward. Zeka realizing it is time to get out, but it's Piosik now who has been caught. Trying to step forward, trying to body block the escape. Stun going to come in, but will not find purchase there. Failing on the riposte big. Good patience again from Piosik.
And that's the beauty of phase rush on the Sejuani, especially when the enemy team has so many melee champs. I'll hold my breath for a second here because Ruler.
The root locked up. That's the root. Barrel from the bush, and the bananas are coming in. That's going to be a flash out and over the wall.
Oh, double summoners blown there from Ruler, trying to get a couple of those creeps trade onto Deft, but Barrel being sneaky Soraka in the bush finds the silence and Root. Deft not in range to follow up, but that's another target for DRX. These side lanes don't have flashes. They just need to bring a numbers advantage and force it, or look for an objective. You know, Herald's up in 30 seconds. If they want to force a 5v5, or if they want to force this Drake 5v5, then they can easily do so, because the Sejuani will be getting closer and closer to that level 6 mark, and you can always easily select a target in fight. There it is, the level up to Piosik.
And if you look at this game from DRX's perspective, a lot of small advantages going over to them, and now they're going to try to capitalize on them. Lahan's waiting in the brush, Piosik now going in. This should be an easy kill. There's just everybody in the bot lane. Surprise, baby! That's a Camille and first blood for DRX.
That was such a good play by Kingen. He got helped out by Piosik in the 2v2 top side to force Doran's flash. The wave crashed, Doran had to catch it and base and TP back. Kingen could run back to that lane. So what he does then is he pays his bot side back by ganking down there and then TPing back up. Problem is though is, oh, I think he stole it. Did he just take that one away from Piosik?
Oh man.
He did. That hurts.
I mean, he's the ruler for a reason.
He is.
The man don't miss.
The man don't miss. That's a crab over to Ruler. Piosik's gonna start up the dragon. It's Furus, I think.
Soloing the Herald.
Yeah, soloing the Herald here, Doran, knowing that they need to cross map quickly.
And remember that Camille is just coming up top lane to catch this massive wave. There's still a CS difference, so it was not without cost. The Kingen went down to the bottom lane that he got that first blood, but it's a trade objective. Ruler, no.
Not again.
You can't do this to them.
No, he has a 900 damage smite. He can't steal this.
There's Boris Q does a lot of damage. Charge? Okay. All right.
Doesn't have the damage. Good smite. Piosik being safe, and it's a trade of neutrals. Herald over to Gen G, Dragon over to DRX. Question is, where will they use this Herald? You have to expect it to be topside. Peanut doing a little bit of counter jungling. Red buff's up. Piosik will spot him, but there's a ward there, so Peanut knows he's around. Chovy has mid push.
Also difficult. The red buff is up and available. Similarly, the empowered recall allows him to get out quite quickly.
Oh, this is one of those moments where you have to find him. You know he's in your jungle somewhere, but the actual fact he's based with the Herald, so Piosik will check his camps and make sure he's safe, and we'll clear those up.
This is the second time you've highlighted that, but the absence of information, what could be waiting for you in the fog of war, something that always has to be respected on either side. Chovy getting spotted as he returns to mid, getting that information over to Zeka, and as we take stock of the lane state, 10 CS lead on the top side of the map. Bot lane very much in favor of Deft on the back of some early lane pressure as well as that positive sum trade. So overall, things are going pretty well right now.
Oh, that was
side of DRX.
That was really smart from Deft. He knew Ruler was hugging the wall, so he couldn't go up, so he actually ulted right through the wave in his face, knowing the only way he could run is backwards. So he used the E first to slow him. Gets a really good trade and takes a base, and now he'll run back to lane as quick as possible with that 20 CS lead and keep up the pressure. Still no summoners on that bot side. 3 minutes 40 seconds away from the dragon, and we expect the game to be slow like this because on one side, DRX have a fantastic scaling with Azir and Soraka and things like this. Really good team fight with MF. And Gen G want to scale because they're playing safe with Varus Tom, and the Fiora will do well into the Fiora the later the game the later the game goes.
Certainly the case. And I like what we're seeing as well from Deft in terms of itemization. Early BT has been super popular, allows you to mitigate a lot of trading, as well as just raw AD for your ultimate. But most importantly, the dreamy life of any MF main is you just don't have to buy boots. Yep. Feels good. Just strut your way back to lane, although could come to haunt him depending on how aggressive Lahens wants to get.
Deft's been holding this freeze here for so long. Barrel going to stop Chovy's base, and it just makes it so that Genji's ruler feels bot lane, feels so exposed when they walk up to try and push out these waves and crash them, especially given that Peanut's hovering top the majority of the time. But I think what DRX are saying now is they want a Herald somewhere and we need to match it. So Barrel's looking for information through the map. Because Deft's freezing bot here, Ruler says we're not going to go back down there. We're going to run towards the top side, go 4-man here, and likely place the Herald down. So DRX are ready to respond, ready to cover. We'll see what Zeka's movement is here, because he could TP up this tower to help the defense. We'll see what Deft does as well. He's going to hold the freeze, he's going to fast push. Peanut stepping forward. Oh. Peanut, the patience here, waiting till he's got backup so they cannot collapse on him.
does not overplay his hand. Dorn and Ruler now stepping forward. DRX doing what they can to clear the wave for now. Certainly do not have the best tools to stop this push from happening.
This is a really good map read here from DRX. They just stopped the Herald in its tracks. They can't place it now, Gen G. It's an even numbers, and Chovy's gone towards bot with no unleashed TP, meaning Zeka has the mid push. But they need to force something. The second this wave dies, that's it. The play's off, and they have 2 minutes left for plates.
And a reminder that so many creeps are dying. So much money that Gen G could have had is dying on that bottom side of the map, is dying in this mid lane as we see Chovy return back. So DRX being there not only stops the Herald, but takes so much potential income away from the side of Gen G.
Might just have to be a case of Peanut placing it either top or mid to get gold for himself. But eventually DRX will have to back off of this top side because Deft is still bot. So if they just keep rinse and repeating, DRX will back away. And now with this wave coming in, the Herald will likely be put down. The golds will be funneled over to Ruler, who's struggling. It's interesting that Gen G don't give the gold to Doran. Doran's ahead and he's going to outscale. Ruler is behind. Let's give him as much gold as possible.
And that's just the power of the nameplate. It's not about the champion, it's about the player. In this case, gold going to be split a little bit here. Deft on the bottom side walking away from the Fiora. Pyosik taking a decent amount of poke, and Gen G doing what they can to keep the siege up. Plates are still going to be up for another minute. Right now, the gold within touching distance, 200 gold to the Ocean Drake on the side of DRX, really the only difference.
Deft has no flash, he has to be careful.
Deft walking away, the clans. Doran, is he just going to walk him down the heel? Now coming in for the Soraka, is it going to be enough? He's trying to pitch the win. Oh! The 1-for-1? Doran, no! How does he do it? He makes it out even in the face of the heel from Barrel.
With the Sunderer spike, Deft thought that he was safe because of the Soraka ult. Maybe he thought he could bait Doran in, but the healing from Grasp and Sunderer and the kill was enough to make it so he would live through that last tower shot. Deft overstepping a little bit. Not sure about the limits there on the 1v1 with the Soraka ult, and now that means that Ruler can step forwards here and look for this tower. Big gold swing over to Gen G.
Gen G, no fear to step forward here, and we talk about the 2v2 matchup. We forgot about Barrel being top lane and Deft being bottom, and well punished from the side of Gen G. Again, if DRX had continued to hold that, it could have gone very bad very quickly, but Doran playing this fantastically.
Yeah, Deft, no flash here, just trying to kite out Doran. And no, this is where he had to flash initially, so he was scared of Doran proccing the vitals. And then he steps up for the wave, and Doran just goes for the flash Q. Look where that vital is, it's in the perfect spot. Cleanses away from what he expects to be the slow, pops the W, gets the Soraka ult, and then Doran manages to get the kill with the grasp, with the Sunderer, with the level up. It's just enough to make it a 1-for-0.
And credit to Doran for playing that well, but also 3 back-to-back very fortunate vital procs in terms of location. First one to the right, next one in front of him, the third one behind as he's coming around the tower as well. So not only was it well executed, but the RNG going in his favor too, as DRX now trying to bully their way in. They've got the 1-item spike for Deft. He's got his ulti up and available. This is going to be tough for Gen G to contest.
No TP on Doran, so he'll be very late to this fight. DRX want to get this down as quick as possible. Can Peanut steal? Will DRX engage? The Tahm Kench shield is crucial against the Sejuani, but Zeka can look to shuffle.
Yep, still in the area. They're ready to flip this on the 50-50. He can go unstoppable over the wall if he needs to. Chovy. Can he find something? Barsalt is going to be big. Peanut now locked up, but that's the Tahm Kench ultimate coming in. King is still in the pit. Chovy still in the pit. Looking to get it. He's going to lock it down. That's the Juggler now going in. Zeka fishing, looking for an opportunity. The grand challenge issue. That's the 2-man from Lehens. The follow-up now from Gen G. They will take their kills and walk away happy.
DRX try to take the 5v5. Yes, they get the dragon, but they overstep, and Gen G punish and pounce onto them. Both carries full. We'll see what they can get off the back of this. King is hovering around on this bot side. Pyosik is behind him. Soraka ult is up in around 5 to 10 seconds if they want to opt into this 2v2.
It's going to get bad very quickly. The hook shot into the wall dive will make it out. Doing what he can to hold on to the tower, but again, good news for DRX. They are able to grab that dragon, but giving more kills over certainly not going to feel good. And certainly when the follow-up, the second Herald to the side of Gen G, it's not looking quite as positive as it once did.
Tools now for Gen G to work with. We'll look at this one again because I think the Varus ult comes out here onto Pyosik, so he can't hit the dragon, so he decides to ult onto Peanut, who gets the ultimate from Tahm Kench. Now the fight slows down a bit, but then Zeka tries to make it an explosive one. So the dragon goes over to Pyosik, but let's keep our eyes on the Azir here. He goes for Peanut and tries to flash predict, but he actually knocks him away rather than towards his team. I wonder if he could have pushed him into DRX. They could have picked up that kill. Chovy arrives, Doran arrives, and with the gap closed, DRX have no way out.
And you can see in theory how much value you can get out of DRX's composition when you can take out 1 or 2 members when a fight begins, but if you fumble some of those major cooldowns, it is so easy for Lehens, for Chovy, for Doran, Peanut, for all of the members of this team, this lineup, to turn on you in an instant.
This is why Gen G has just been so successful throughout the year. 50 wins and 9 losses, something along those lines after the quarterfinals since the start of Summer Split. Their carries are just absolute rocks. Look at Chovy CS right now. He's up 20 over Zeka despite losing the push, was juggling mid and bot waves. Ruder fell behind a little bit, but Gen G know exactly how to get him back in the game. Of course, he has #1 jungle proximity. Peanuts always hovering around his AD carry. Here comes the second Herald onto this mid tower. Def doesn't have the MF ult for the next 3 or 4 seconds, so he can't use it.
Breaking mid lane. Are they going to push for the second charge here?
MF ult's up now.
They get that out before any other objectives are up. Feel pretty good. Just going to be the charge for now. Bit more poke, bit more damage. Chovy now retreating. It's going to be another Cloud Drake. Shout out to our boy Atlas.
Cloud Soul indeed, yeah. It's roughly a 4k gold lead here for Gen G. DRX, the only saving grace is they have 2 dragons under their belt, but the Cloud Soul is not a great combat soul to have. You would much rather have something like the Infernal or the Hex deck. But it's still a soul, and they'll try to keep focusing on these dragon stacks. Problem is they have his Zeka on a side lane. It's really, really exposed. He has no tower next to him. Yes, he has his passive that he can put down right now, but if he doesn't have his jungler hopping around, he's a very easy target for Gen G. If they just push in mid and move towards top, Lehens is already on the way up. Peanuts right behind him. They have TP on Kingen and a Soraka ult to keep him alive, but this will always be a pressure point for Gen G playing on 2 lanes.
With Pioshik shadowing on the bottom side, maybe hoping to find a pick, it just means that the entirety of the top side jungle is off limits. Doran gonna find the parry, now dashing out to safety. What's he gonna get? Grand challenge, looking for multiple marks. Now gonna get locked up in the Hex deck, although Mayhem should just fall here. A little bit more healing. Is it going to be enough? Needs to dash forward, but no, that's the shutdown. Hit him with the flail and walk away.
Big shutdown now over to DRX. It's a shame it didn't go into King, and that'll sting because it went onto their Sejuani, but a kill's a kill. They actually saved the mid tier 2 with the MF ult, but I think Gen G can stick around. Chovy's actually just going to push out top and TP down here to keep the tower alive, so it's a kill, but it's not an objective. Need a little bit more than that, DRX, but they have to send 2 members to kill this Fiora. The Camille will not win 1v1 with the Fiora being this far ahead. So, desperation moves on numbers advantage, but it's their only real way to find these plays.
Certainly is a tricky map state. It is only going to get harder as Gen G holding on to this 3k gold lead. And as you highlighted earlier, Cloud Soul is going to be important. You got an MF on your team, you love to have those ultis. It's a similar story for Soraka, but it's not infernal. It's not something that could offer you much more effective combat stats. Hopefully outvalue some of the champions on the opposite side. So for now, a brief period of quiet before the next dragon. 1 minute away, 1:30 on the Baron. Neither of these teams so far ahead that they can just start a Baron up, so a quieter mid game here. And I think this is the nature of game 1s and best of 5 K-Trolls. We so often see game 1 a testing ground. Games 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you're going to talk about, often much more explosive, much more bloody, but game 1 often really about testing your metal, poking, looking for weaknesses, trying to find those avenues and angles. Gen G take control of mid.
Yeah, T1 of course losing that game yesterday in game 1, but then bouncing back as the series progresses is a good example of that. So what DRX have done right now on the map is they've actually sent King in towards top. They know that bot side is a liability and they can't stick around there for too long, and Zeka will never get this top push, so they said let's just cross map. Let's just force a tier 2 top while they go towards a dragon, and we'll race them on side lanes to trade gold. It's always good to trade gold when you're behind, and when you're ahead you always want to trade to your own benefit, but now it's 1 for 1 in towers so far. It might be 2 for 2, but Doran has flash. He's playing a very confident next to Lehens.
Really want to get this kill, but of course the Tom Kench being there stops it in its track. It's going to be tower for tower now match. DRX trying really hard to overload top side. They will get the tower trade, but very little else past that.
The losing play for this would be you would actually give up the dragon, but DRX, seeing Lehens and Doran up towards that top side, they say, well, we'll just run towards mid here as 5, push this wave in, and I expect them to go towards bot side or decide to back away and give up this dragon, but no, they're staying around looking for this mid tower. Gen G, Chovy doesn't have the TP, so he can't look to flank them. They are going to move into this bot side river. They are going to take out a little bit of this vision, but they just got a lot of gold in their back pockets and they haven't spent it, so opting into a fight is very dangerous. Giving Gen G just 1 dragon at 20 minutes is not that much of a pain.
And going to be very difficult to force that fight, especially when Chovy already at 2 items. Shadow Flame as well as the Everfrost here. Going to be a very difficult man to lock down and to shut down in these fights. Doran just clearing out vision, gets that top wave pushed in, and the map state returns to normalcy. So Gen G realizing that DRX have backed away, knowing that they are stronger in the fight, will take the free dragon.
It's been a consistent 4,000 gold lead roughly for Gen G over the last 3 or 4 minutes. They're holding on to it. It's very hard for DRX to find plays. Doran is their best target, but Chovy's constantly pushing out sides and just disappearing into fog of war. Here comes the top pressure again for DRX. The benefit of this is if you commit numbers top for pressure, then of course you get vision around Baron, which will help you slow the game down. Peanut finds Pioshik. Zeka's looking for this blue buff. Chovy is on the way. This could be dangerous if they overstay for too long. Will Zeka get it? Yes, he will. And they will get out. Death's just farming up. Kingen was hovering around, but he'll go back towards the bot side now. So DRX trying to get as much shallow vision on this top side as possible, putting down some pinks, buying time for this Azir.
Scaling. Zeka, 1.5 items. Now going to be 2 as he backs and finishes the Brelonomicon. Grabs an extra Amp Tome as well, but definitely not full on late game Azir status quite yet in the game.
The Azir is really far behind, isn't he? Just bought the Morello now, so that'll help out a little bit, but needs a lot more damage. Completing that Morello doesn't give you that much of a power spike. The Azir really wants to... I think he was looking for a shuffle there, Zeka, or some kind of WE to get closer with his Q to actually chunk Peanut out, but he needs to get a Rabadons as quick as possible. Build up to that late game Azir threat. Now they're going to contest some mid-waves here. DRX will get the push out because Gen G are showing both their solo laners on side, so TP actually coming in from Chovy. Maybe he was scared they were going to force that tower.
That's the potential of the DRX composition. That is the strength of Sejuani that we highlighted earlier on, as well as the Camille. The reliable engage tools certainly are there for DRX, and while Lens is around, can mitigate some of it, they always have to be careful, they always have to give that respect, but you can see Gen G have not struggled to give that respect. They have not misstepped, they have not given anything away, and the gold lead does just continue to grow as they keep picking up these side waves, as they keep farming more, pushing their vision out. Soon, I expect, are going to start looking to contest the Baron.
I think Vedius was touching on the desk how DRX don't often draft this traditional form of engage, and the game that they have done it with the Sejuani, there's a Tam Kench on the other side, right? So the second the Sejuani ult lands, that's an each target, and then they disengage, and the fight continues, so you lose that engage quite quickly. Gen G sweeping out this top side. It's very hard for them to start up the Baron. Of course, DRX have double TP, and they can easily walk into this pit. There's no real great turn for Gen G that actually merits a Baron start. DRX, I guess they could sneak a Baron over the wall with the Azir and Sejuani, but Gen G will never allow that to happen. And it looks like it might just be a slow dragon stacking game. Gen G can't really overforce, and DRX have to commit 2 numbers to make this play happen. The only danger of this is losing Nash, but Doran will see him, and he'll back away.
Kingen obviously at the point in the game where you start to shred through those towers. Dorn for now, confident staying under this tier 1. You can see why, because just to the left of your screen is Lahen's now walking in, and that's the cue for DRX to hightail it out of there.
So the reason DRX are even looking for that play in the first place is because they know Chovy doesn't have TP. They're trying to use that to their advantage by trying to force a 2-man play onto Doran, knowing that Peanut and Chovy cannot respond, but it's Lahen's who's been covering these side lanes on Tahm Kench because he knows Ruler is safe on these mid waves. And Gen G are happy to slow the game down as well. They're incredibly good scaling too, and they control the game right now. There's no real threat of that soul. They took away the 3rd one, and it's just a matter of time before Gen G overcommit on this top side, push out top, starts forcing a Baron as Doran's pushing in bot, and you have to make a choice. Do you stop Doran with your jungle top, or do you give up the Baron? And of course, DRX will always try to fight the Baron, but Gen G need to hit towards that 3-item spike before they can force it.
Barrel checking the brush there with the silence, getting what information he can as Chovy retreats back in the safety of his own side of the map. And again, Cagel, you highlighted so well, but it is just looking, fishing for any opportunity, trying to find these pockets of vision, hoping that that control ward won't be there the second time around, trying to find picks to lead to greater advantages or objectives. Because again, as long as neither team feels confident enough to just force start the Baron, it's going to be about playing for the next dragon. It's going to be about playing for these side lanes, finding these objectives. DRX obviously very easy for them to look at that tier 1 in the bottom lane, the next target in their eyes.
And let's not forget, of course, DRX are 0-8 against Gen G this year. 0-12 overall, but they've never beaten Gen G once this year in the best of 3s. And there's often been games like in the first round of summer regular season where they're playing Kog'Maw, Seraphine, Lulu, and they're ahead. They have Ocean Soul, they're up 5k gold or something, and then they throw the game away around Elder Dragons. So DRX have always struggled. Gen G is almost like their kryptonite at times in the regular season. 4 times they played a best of 3, 8 games won for Gen G. DRX now controlling this top side, fighting back, trying to get some kind of vision. Gen G quick to respond. Ruler's on red buff though, so they have to be a bit slow before they walk in. Peanut paying respect as he waits for his World Championship AD carry to step up and be behind him on that 3-item spike. Now they'll start to move forwards. You expect Gen G will start to push DRX back.
They see an opportunity, they want to get it because Depth is waiting over the wall, but keep your eyes on the ultimate. It could be big, but it is not enough. Leaping in now, Chovy diving to the backline, taking the ultimate away from Kingen and finding the kill. Just like that, Gen G see their opportunity and they're right onto the Baron.
Ruler arrives and in a blink of an eye he starts to fight onto Pyosik. Actually gets the kill in the roots, so Pyosik can't even respond, do anything at all. Chovy takes away the Camille ult, E-Flash ult on top of Beryl. He has no way out, in Gen G with that one fight now have a Baron in their hands. TP coming in here from Chovy. They want to force this mid push so they can secure the dragon as well. They don't want DRX to get absolutely anything. Zeka was hovering around that dragon pit trying to trade it as an objective. try and find some kind of consolation prize, but now with this 1-3-1, Gen G will start to run away with it.
And you can see why Gen G are so confident to keep scaling into this game when they're coming in from multiple angles, when Deft is not there, when the DRX do not have that strong front-to-back team fight, they just get picked to pieces.
So he's rooted into a stun. I think it was the repulse from Fiora instantly get the kill, or the Viego W, but there's Chovy with the stolen Hextech ultimatum, just dashes forwards, flashes on the Soraka. He knows that the Soraka is a key target in these fights. DRX, as much as they wanted to contest there, they didn't even stand a bloody chance, did they? Ruler just melted straight through their front line.
And again, this is what we talked about. You spend the whole game fishing, and all it takes is one misstep, one over-eager attempt to gain control of the Baron for the game to fall further out of the hands of DRX. And while scaling versus scaling certainly is something that has to be considered, and execution will always be a part of the equation, 7k gold starts to feel more and more insurmountable. The Baron buff as well, 2 minutes left. The only good news is they don't have the best champions in the world to try and force a siege. Yeah, they're going to grab a couple tier 2s, but short of a DRX mistake, very unlikely they'll grab anything else. That said, Len's there to back up, waiting, going to go for the Devour, waiting out the timer. TP now coming in. Gen G think they have their fight. Now it's the Camille that's been isolated instantly. Doran now leaping forward. A grand challenge, stepping in, finding a bit more healing. DRX on the back foot. Gen G, they want more. They got the wave to back them up. A single cannon minion barrel locked down. Barrel taken out. Death to the Soraka. Now the single cannon minion, all that remains. Zeka gonna clear that one out. A new wave to come in, and Gen G taking control of the mid lane.
Health bars are low, so Gen G are gonna send their top jungle to force down this tier 2 on the top side, while Ruler gets through this tier 3 in mid. DRX have thrown so many things at Gen G, but they found a response to absolutely everything. And you can't really blame DRX. Their only plays this game have been overcommitting numbers to side. How can they engage mid up against this Tahm Kench with a Sejuani on your team, with a Soraka on your team? It's so hard to dive onto them and follow up. Your best bet is these side plays, but Gen G know it. Lehens has been covering. Doran's ready with the TPs. Chovy too. And the second they overstep for it, Gen G are there.
And again, DRX think that they have their avenue. They think they have their opening, but both of the single target CC options come out. That is the cue for Lehens to use the Devour. And effortless now for Doran to turn. Gives enough respect to back away, but DRX running out of time, at a deficit. Right now, Gen G absolutely out-executing.
Barrel, no flash there, instantly picked up by the overfrost of Chovy. No way out. Baron buff still up for the next 20 seconds. They didn't get the inhibitor, and they're trying to push in a bot wave right now. Chovy doesn't have the TP, but there's the E.
Lehens! He's just eating the top laner, doesn't even mind. He's the support, but he's got the team to back him up. Ruler gonna finish the job, and it is a slaughter in the DRX jungle.
It is clean, calm, and consistent from Gen G. We talked about how stable and reliable their carries are, while their team is as well. Little to no mistakes.
Lockdown, Zeka, the knock-up now coming in. The Soraka healing will not be enough. DRX have yet to find a win against Gen G, and this game is not the game where it'll happen. Absolute dominance from Ruler, from Chovy, from the entirety of Gen G.
37 seconds. Lehens pops the stopwatch, manages to live through the ultimate. Does he die? No, he doesn't.
Forward, Def locked up, instant cleanse. Not enough.
This
Def taken down, and we talked about it. This is what makes Gen G terrifying. The consistency and execution. It is top tier, flawless League of Legends.
You can't fault it, can you? They play it by the book, and they play it clean. DRX do everything they can in their power to find these plays, to actually find advantages in any of these lanes, because all 3 lanes are pushing into them. They had to do something, and Gen G knew it. They read them back. And Ruler on the Varus, despite falling behind in the early portions of the lane, the Herald got him back into it, and he kept farming mid-waves, was sitting very quietly while his team sorted out those side lanes, got his 3 items, started the fight, got a Baron. So, can't really fault it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the team-wide effort to make sure that the Camille and the Sejuani looked absolutely useless this game is outstanding play across the board. It is not just the Tahm Kench pick, it was the excellent vision, it was the discipline to not over-push in the side lanes, because this could have been a much more explosive, much more bloody game, but Gen G were just in total control of the map.
Yeah, I think DRX want the games to be faster paced. They want Zeka on something that can fight back, not on Azir that can scale. So now I expect DRX to go over to blue side, and it gets a bit complicated for Gen G, because you've got things like Yuumi, Caitlyn, Akali, Sylas, Aatrox. What are you going to leave open that DRX is going to take away to make sure the game is a lot more bloody?
It's a difficult puzzle that has to be solved. Of course, see what DRX want to bring to the table. If it's the exact same bans, you can obviously look towards things like Sylas, see what Zeka can do on it. But sadly for DRX, we know what you want. terms of who they want to prioritize.
Caitlyn is
But
up
Caitlyn
as well. I think what they're saying here, DRX, is Silas and Nikali are up. We'll get one of them no matter what on the 2-3. We'll prioritize Caitlyn here. Now, Gen G has the options of things like Sejuani, Viego, their preference on this mid matchup. And for bot lane, they might have to lean towards something like Varus again into this Caitlyn. They will have support counter pick on red side, so that helps out a little bit. But DRX here are probably just going to pick Akali or Silas on 2 with a Lux on 3.
Lux would certainly make a lot of sense. Definitely the premier pairing for that option. Silas going to be the lock-in, and you can see overall the more flexible champion. Based on what we've seen thus far, Zeka definitely coming out on top of that matchup more often than not. The Silas into Akali. Have to assume that he'll lock it in, but see if there are any bot lane responses from the side of Gen G. Instead, though, again, when you have so many specific target bans, more and more of the S tiers leak through. Graves feels like undisputed king of the jungle, but so frequently taken off the board, will now go into the hands of Peanut.
And of course, Graves, you have to think about the level 1s. DRX needs to be very aware of what could Peanut do level 1 with the late invades. And how does he want to match the Graves? I'd be very shocked if they drop the Akali and actually prioritize jungle here if they drop support, especially given that Gen G haven't picked their AD carry yet. But it could be a teaser of what's to come. No, it's
That's
locked
gonna
in.
be it!
It's going to be the Kindred. They're going to drop support by the looks of it. Wow. Kindred, of course, Piosik.
What? Are they willing to drop the Akali for Zeka? A pick that has gotten so much done for DRX to make sure that their bot lane is that they are. Zeka, he wants us to remember the name. He wants us to remember that he is not afraid to take the back foot and a few more target bans to make sure that his bot lane can come out on top.
3 range champions already. Gen G need to match this Lux right now by looks of it, so they're going to go for something like the Karma. Means that on 4 you'll have plenty of options to choose from, but contesting push against Caitlyn Lux is always a very difficult one. Of course, Piosik, if you're wondering why he's picked Kindred and not many other people are, he was a one-trick Kindred streamer, and it's his favorite champion. I think it's probably one of his best as well. A lot of success on this champion.
Yeah, the classic fun fact, of course, Piosik meaning Mark, Korean. Have to see what the options are going to be here, though. And even though DRX have secured for themselves an incredible powerhouse bot lane, Caitlyn Lux, it is a bot lane that requires an insanely high level of execution. If you make one misstep, this lane falls apart so incredibly quickly. And the cost of securing this bottom lane, of securing these two champions together, is the Akali falling away from Zeka. Where will his champion pool take him next?
I wonder if we'll see a Zoe from Zeka. It's the first thing I can think of when I see the way their comp is leaning towards. And into the Silas, it can be a good matchup in terms of getting the push in the early stages. Because Ryze is out, Akali's out. Azir run back with 4 range champions. I don't think that's the play for DRX. Again, they need the game to be a bit faster paced. They need to have a little bit more pressure. Yes, Zoe's a range champion as well, but she can actually walk up on sieges and help out the Caitlyn Lux. There's the Azir ban to no one's surprise. They could also go towards a Lissandra direction, but into Silas, it's really, really hard to pick. And Swain, Galio, I don't really feel like these are champions in Zeka's wheelhouse.
Definitely going to be tricky. Definitely going to need to see Zeka dig deep. Don't want to end up in a situation where you do not have some sort of playmaking in the mid. Again, a lot of range, but a very squishy, very vulnerable composition. Not a lot of hard engage options. Light binding, not enough to let you really comfortably front to back team fight. But now the Camille taken off the board. Ruler can just pick up the Varus here. Does he want to go for something a bit more spicy?
There's no way he goes Samira with Karma, right? Especially into Caitlyn. Yeah, Varus would make the most sense. He needs something that can wave clear, not look for all-ins, get the push. Try to contest the Caitlyn Lux and have set up for your jungler, right? The Varus holds so pivotal in that sense. Now it's on DRX, blind picking their top lane and their answer to Silas. This is the question we've had from the get-go. Ahri would be one of them. Of course, we'll fall off the later the game goes, but it's going to be Zeka's Ahri. Now, he dropped Ahri towards the end of the summer regular season. They lost to Hanwha, they lost to KT in the last week of the regular season in the LCK summer split this year. And it was Ahri which was Zeka's main priority, and he was really struggling in those games, so confident enough to bring it back here on the World semi-final stage, and Gragas locked in there for Kingen. I don't think Doran will struggle to find a counter pick to that champion. Sejuani actually still up, interesting enough.
Debating the option is, can't go for Sejuani and said the Ornn. You want fights this game, you're gonna get them. Ornn and the Gragas ready to kick things off, most certainly, but the early game naturally where we have to keep our eyes anytime there's a Caitlyn Lux in the game, Ahri as well. Keeping track of where the early action is going to be.
Yeah, good pick there from Gen G. They needed frontline, they needed engage. They had pushing bot, they had skirmish heavy, mid-jungle. You need to slot in a tank there somewhere, and they found it in the Ornn. So very similar compositions from both sides here. Top will be in isolation. I expect the majority of the game And the Kindred Ari will be trying to fight back against the Graves Sylas. Whoever can get to bots first will have the push. In isolation, it can be situational on how the Mantra Qs go, but if either mid-jungle is hovering towards bot side, then they have to give up the push, right? So mid-jungle is important in this game in making sure that Caitlyn can look for plates or the Varus can fight back and go even and sustain the push against the Caitlyn.
Very volatile compositions, tons of pressure when it comes to execution on the side of DRX.
Stacks in the early stages, but on stage in professional games, it's almost becomes an objective. You know, when the enemy jungle has a stack in your jungle, you make sure it's warded, you make sure you're around to cover it. DRX, of course, we talked about the level 1s. We talked about Graves' level 1s. Normally it's been on blue side towards top to take away your red buff, and of course you can fight back against most junglers with Graves level 1. So I wonder if DRX is thinking about that, and they're conscious of it, of Peanut just walking in alongside Ruler and Lehens and forcing DRX back.
Oh, and it's Comet! Ruler could be going for the lethality build, just trying to outrange, outpoke here.
Yeah, I think it was Hope who was the majority of the time playing Hail of Blades Varus, but Comet Varus also works very well. Double Comet in bot to push back against the Caitlyn Lux. I've said push a lot because that's just how Caitlyn works. You get push, you can win. If you don't get push as Caitlyn, you're very useless. So this is the late invade that Gen G are going for, I wonder.
Speaking of push the connect button and make sure to grab the exclusive Very Nasa's Much Wow emote from Prime Gaming by connecting your League of Legends account with your Prime account. Turn our attention back towards this one, of course. Tracking the early mark, tracking bot lane a lot. Very explosive bot lane. Double Comet, something we need to keep our eye on, and both sides opting for longsword 3-pots. Again, less all-in power, but the sustain, the immediate effective health you get from just having 3-pots in lane, much higher.
Nice E there by Beryl, will land the first poke. Mantra Q really important here in this lane. Trying to poke them out as much as possible, but Lehens will focus on the creeps to contest the push. Pyosik starting topside. Peanut, he's gonna go for the invade, so he didn't go for the level 1, but he's going for the level 2. There's a ward right next to the brush that'll spot him, and Pyosik will know. But the information doesn't help, does it? Because you're losing your red. Pyosik has to go to Peanuts right now, and your Caitlyn Lux are on a split map. I think this is a huge blunder from DRX because your Caitlyn Lux will not be able to get the push. They'll send under their tower, and what are you playing towards? You're playing towards your Gragas lane, right? So Peanut, really good play here to deny Pyosik from affecting bot and helping out this Caitlyn Lux.
Pressure now on Pyosik to really have a big impact again, because as you highlighted, the damage is done by isolating that lane. Peanut walking down immediately forces Beryl and Deft to back up. And if we look back, everyone knows the potential of this lane. You've seen the masterclass games, you've seen the flawless games where Caitlyn is getting 10 tower plates in 5 minutes. This is not going to be one of those games when Peanut is already shutting it down in the early game.
Yeah, and it's kind of frozen as well, so it's just so hard for DRX to step up that wave. Pyosik hopefully will cross back into bot side here and try to help out this bot lane to get that push. Waiting for the cannon to die there so he doesn't get spotted. Quite smart play to make sure he's in fog of war. For all Peanut could know, he could be on Raptors right now, he could be on his Krugs, could be even ganking towards top side. So Peanut might get a bit of a surprise when he sees Pyosik in this bot side jungle. 10 seconds on the crab spawn. Peanut will go towards the wolves. We'll see if Pyosik can roll a good spawn on his mark, but Ruler and Lehens might be pushing up.
The entire time Pyosik is looking for this angle. Camps are being cleared. He is betting so much just to be here. He reveals himself on the bottom side. Beryl immediately flashing forward, waiting on the binding, but the binding goes wide. Lehens still standing. One, looking for more stacks in the mounting dread, but they cannot find the kill. Only the summoner spell, and Ruler firing back. Oh man, he's a monster.
The 2v3 turned in favor of Gen G. There was so much hesitation from DRX. Beryl trying to flash on top of Lehens to land the Q when he flashes away. Just about misses it. Peanut will get bot crab. Could look for his Raptors here as well, so he's going to get off to a sizable lead. I would love to see that replay again because I'm really not sure what Pyosik was doing. I thought he could have just picked up the kill onto Lehens with his flash, but he opted to back away. But I'll hold my breath till we see it.
Certainly something we're going to have to wait for. And remember, Pyosik used so much time to be there, to make that play happen. He moved down to the bottom side of the map. He did not take his own camps, and now Peanut is making his way into the mid lane. That's smoke screen slow. Looking for a bit more damage, taking his time on this one. Incredible patience from Zeka, even standing in the smoke screen, even with zero information, knew that he was safe.
Is he confident enough to cross into topside here and take away that next crab? No smite, but it's the Kindred stack. It's so important, but Zeka's basic right now.
Moving up.
He's gonna have to
needs to get out.
Yeah, he's gonna have to get out. Double crab, lost his Raptors. It's a disaster for the Kindred in the early stages.
For the DRX fans out there, this hurts because you know how important this early game was. You know that Deft and Beryl needed to get off to a good start, but they bet everything on this play and it turned against them.
So Deft is just calling here. Let's just go on this this Karma. This must be a free kill. What does Piosik do here? He lands the E. Why doesn't he go forwards? He must think that the play is off when the binding misses, but he could get in easily a couple more autos there with the flash. There's no heal on Ruler, and Beryl commits the flash to make sure it happens. And it's the comment.
Oh, it's a little pebble!
And the Scorch that gets the kill, I believe, and turns the 2v3 on its head.
You can see the joy on Ruler's face. He knows that they were already winning just by surviving that play, just by holding on. The fact that they get the kill as well is incredible. And crushing for DRX.
Yeah.
As comedic as that reaction was.
Crushing indeed, and Ruler's going towards the Lethality. Varus build will be a poke champion, and we'll try to push DRX off of these objectives the longer the game goes.
So let's take stock. Already you're seeing almost 1,000 gold in the favor of Gen G. That's the CS discrepancy on the bottom side, the massive CS discrepancy in the jungle. XP-wise, DRX still leading the charts, although it's neck and neck. Zeka and Chovy both ticking over to level 5, almost level 6 now.
Joseph looking down towards his bot side again. He knows he needs to get the ball rolling. Lehens has no flash. Wonder if he's going to jump over and then blast cone back into the bush to make sure he avoids the ward. No, he's just going to run straight through, but Lehens has no flash and he'll be here first.
So there's also a very scary boy. Meanwhile, on the top side, King and Adoran trading back and forth. Piosik, he's only level 4. Lehens isn't even concerned. He's not even scared. There's no red buff to back him up. Oh, looking for the 1v1. King now getting hit. It's a big hammer. The Ornn now trying to get him down. They're both ticking. Oh, look at the blinking health bars. The flash out. It's so tense. He's buying time. He's waiting for cooldown. That's the passive backup and available. 8 seconds. He gets the healing just in time. The thumbs up, baby. It's okay. They're going to walk away. Both men standing.
What a
great day.
What a great fight. Doran just trying to flash R2 and King knocks him back into it because he knew Doran would flash over it. Both of them walk away. Peanut now on this bot side.
We've got to keep our eyes. How close is Ruler to level 6? That is going to be the engage tool they need to start getting aggressive onto Beryl and Deft. Stepping forward, big poke, Beryl, the snare. Once it connects, they're going to hit the free target. No intent, turning to Deft.
Oh.
Big damage, can't even dodge that one as he stands in the smoke screen.
Little bait and switch there. Beryl was the target, so Deft thought he could weave in auto attacks to push them back. Piosik level 5 now though, but sorry to Dirk on the Graves. Face check could be good. Zeka doesn't have a lot of mana though to join.
Piosik getting aggressive, mounting Dread, big source of damage, does get that down initially.
That's the stack right there. That's Kindred's mark. He needs that stack.
Flash forward! Ooh, not this time! This time there's a shield. Matt doesn't quite check out.
Yeah, Ruler thought he had the damage there with the full stack WQ auto. Beryl lives. I think Piosik did get that stack, yeah, so he's sitting on 1 and he'll find Peanut once again.
Need to run him down. Trading aggro on the blue. The zone now going to fade away. All those extra dashes no longer available. Peanut now taking control of the objective. Chovy's still under his tower for now, but Piosik knows that he needs to get out.
So let's take stock of the game. There's been so much fighting, but only one singular kill in the 2v3. DRX are trying to contest this bot side to get Caitlyn to push as quickly as they can, try and get some stacks on this Kindred. All the meanwhile, though, Zeka's been building a lead in isolation. 17 CS difference right now on this Ahri. We saw them trade ultimates a little bit earlier on, and now the Herald is spawning. Zeka quite low and no potions. Chovy the same, so Peanut will help him push out. Piosik's looking for another stack, and he will get Peanut's Raptor sitting on 2 right now.
Definitely good after the fumble earlier in the game, after that gank went awry. And again, for Zeka, this is so much and means so much for the series as we move forward. Because we're really just used to talking about his Akali, talking about his Sylas, but if the Ahri can get added to the list as well, it's going to be big as Lehens poking in from the side. Ruler level 6 as well. Deft and Beryl debating if they can just get aggressive onto Ruler, but the cleanse being there makes it so difficult.
It does, but then the target becomes Lux, it becomes Beryl. Ruler can just shoot out his ultimate onto this Lux and she will die with the ignites, with the Mantra Q. That's an easy pickup, so Beryl has to play with a lot of respect. The damage has been done to this bot side. King and no flash, doesn't get hit by the knockup, but the ultimate.
As his ultimate available, is going to throw it out, just knocking them away. But it is pressure on the top side. King going to be forced to back away from the wave. Should be an easy push out now for Doran.
So Herald is up. Peanut, is he going to start it? Yes, he is. So I think let's look at Piosik here on the minimap. Is he going to go to Gromp and try to take the stack away to get to 3 and try to get to 4 as quick as possible? Or does he think he's in time to fight the Herald? Looks like he's moving up. 2v2 on the horizon. No ultimate for Doran, no TP, so that means Keegan can join this in a 3v2. And Peanut just going to reset this Herald. No mid push. Not confident enough to take it, and I'll give it over to DRX. You have to expect with Beryl basing, he can move up here, and Ruler, of course, is going to deny the Gromp to stop the stack from being picked up.
Good heads-up play to take that one away as Kingan now comes down. Giving up the Herald, definitely not ideal for Gen G, but remember, just a few minutes ago, it was about a 1,000 gold lead. DRX have been bringing it back. Even if they have not found that kill, keeping it within touching distance, the Herald really going to even out that discrepancy as Zeka continues to trade aggressively in the mid lane. No kill pressure on Chovy quite yet, but has to be careful.
Zeka is doing a great job. We were wondering what his pick into Sylas is when we give up the Akali ban. 20 CS lead, 2 plates, and he has a Herald. So now all of a sudden a win condition for DRX has arose. They can just put the Herald down mid here and just try to take a full tower because Zeka is winning his lane. TP back from Chovy won't be in time though because Peanut is on the dragon. He almost picked up for Ruler. This should be an easy first blood tower and this gold lead will go in favor of DRX. So bot lane has fallen apart, but they've now relied on Zeka. Are they going to keep going here? They see Doran top. They know Peanut's on dragon, but they are going to back away.
Fishing with the charm, they will not find it, but it is on the back of Zeka. The individual advantage he was able to build, that they are able to use that Herald in the mid lane. Now Deft walking down, trying to zone away. Piotrek on the way in. Is he just going to smite it? Baiting, taking it out.
No one had smite. Nobody had smite. That was really awkward stare down. Peanut just got it the last second. But, okay, so the dragon does go over to Gen G, and now they're going to try to stop them from getting into bot to look for a plate. But very messy. I like the confidence, but that smoke screen did work.
Peanut waiting in the darkness. Big damage now going to come in. Karma firing it over the wall, chunking them out. Potentially trying to open up the option for a dive. Piotrek in the area though with the Lamb's Respite. Not going to give them anything else here.
Yeah, Peanut's going to take the base, and chunking them out is all you want to do in this lane. That's exactly what this lane's all about. Just poke, poke, poke. The more the lands, the better it is for the Varus. But it's Zeka right now who's sitting with the lead. 600 gold roughly. That mid-tier one's down. Now he can start moving around the map, and I hold my breath for a second as Piotrek is still hovering around this bot side. Not much action to be done, but Ruler has no flash. They only have one Lux binding a CC, and he has got the cleanse to respond to it. Now he will get spotted on this pink, and the play will be off.
That play is going to fizzle, of course, on the bottom side of the map, really. Ruler continuing to build that advantage more and more. Getting that early Youmu's, having the tier stacking up as well. Now with the Umbral Glaive on Peanut too, the game gets so much more difficult. The vision line for DRX is slowly but surely just going to get whittled down. And for Kingan on the top side, he's been staying in these lane phases for so long, but he's just running out of mana. Maybe vulnerable to a dive soon. It doesn't look like they're going to try to push any greater advantage here. Just happy to give Doran the recall.
Yeah, he should be fine. He has the TP, but Zeka just used his back to mid. Now has the Everfrost. Look at the item disparity in mid lane. Zeka should be able to dominate this, get the waves in, and start pushing towards the side lanes. Of course, Zeka was one of the young talents from BLG. He went across to the LPL, across to China, and he was a very highly sought mid laner coming into this year. DRX able to pick him up off the back of Kingan, who's actually a very close friend of his, convinced him to come over to the LCK, drop the LPL, and join him in the ranks of DRX, and now he's having a standout year. Regular season was very good, but Worlds so far, he is looking like a superstar.
And the evolution of Zeka has been a pleasure to watch, because we heard from Deft in an interview he did with Ashley Kang that he's always been a great player in scrims, but that bringing that level of performance to the stage has always been a struggle, and you catch glimmers of it when they're barely able to make it to Worlds, and you see more of it in play-ins, and then more again in groups and quarters, and now here we stand in semifinals against Chovy, one of, if not the best mid laner in the world, struggling. And obviously, Zeka getting the counter pick, but this is exactly what you want from your mid laner when you are facing down Gen G.
Yeah, and that's exactly it as well, because when you pick these counter picks, you need them to have value, and we're seeing the value come out of Zeka despite being up against such a titan in the mid lane. And Piotrek still hovering around mid now. Looks like he wants to push Chovy back, but this constant mid push is allowing Deft and Beryl to keep up with the tempo of Gen G. You can see they're first towards top, no Herald in their back pocket, 2 minutes from either neutral objective, so we'll see how the rotations go. But for now, it looks like DRX want to keep Zeka in mid. They don't want to put Deft in there. They don't want to have Zeka on a side lane just yet. And Ruler will start to have to give up the push, because of Zeka. He's the key right now for DRX to unlocking this map.
And it's very, very important that DRX do not take their foot off the gas. They try to continue to leverage Zeka's advantage or build advantages elsewhere, because their composition as a whole, incredibly, hold that thought, incredibly squishy. And when you look at Ruler and you think about lethality bars as we get later in the game, yes, this champion has been nerfed time after time after time, but a single good arrow in a late game team fight will take out half the health bars of every DRX member.
It really will, and we're on the cusp of the game breaking in either side with these neutral spawning. If Zeka falls, Gen G will push both these side lanes in so quickly and take either side lane tower. If Zeka stays alive, then they can make it so Deft is even again with Ruler. These next few minutes will be really important in dictating how the game will go around these dragon fights. So here comes Zeka again, up towards his top side. Ruler would love to hit this tower, but he can't because there's an Ahri around. He's just trying to poke Deft away. Can't walk up and hit.
definitely difficult. Getting a few autos here and there, but definitely not able to fully commit to the tower as Lehens tries to push the vision line forward, grouping up with Peanut, regaining control here. Beryl has to be careful now that the binding is down, just to back away.
Wow, okay. So they're going to give it up. Deft getting chunked out. You talked about the lethality virus taking health bars, and Deft got hit by a few too many. They don't feel confident enough in the 4v3 to hold this.
Oh, and this is brutal. This is taking your time, just trying to make sure the enemy AD carry gets absolutely as little CS as possible. Goodbye to that cannon. Making sure that falls before the tower does, and now pushing the rest of the wave in.
So, Dragon in 25, Herald in 40. Looking at DRX's positioning, it's a bit awkward, isn't it? Because you've got your 3-man towards bot side looking for this Dragon, but Death solo pushing out top. King and TP's bot. Pyosik will find Doran, and Ruler will get his base off. Gen G will be the first to the objective with this numbers advantage, with Chovy having the TP, and it looks like Dragon is the call, so Deft's gonna have to join his team as quick as possible.
That is the call. He's now running his way down. One item for Deft is the Gale Force. On the opposite side, Ruler not opting for a Mythic quite yet. Instead focused just on more lethality, more AD, man immune, surely around the corner. But the Dragon, again, looks like it will be uncontested. Gen G don't feel like they need to take this one out. Second Herald about to spawn. They will turn their sights towards the top side of the map instead. Don't really feel like they need the Dragon stacking as a win condition. And Infernal is going to be the soul this time around. So the stacking going to be more important than it was in the game one.
Yeah, they had double TP, but they choose for the cross map. But DRX are around, and they're hovering to contest. They get the mid push in. Kingen has joined his team. Doran still on the spot side will look for the bot tier 1 that's incredibly low. So Gen G right now are buying time for this Ornn to push in, take the tower, and then once the tower is down, then they will TP up with the Ornn and try to take this fight. So DRX are on a timer here. They have about 10 to 15 seconds to play with while Kingen's around mid before they have to go back towards bot. So they want to force something, but they need to make sure they're not too impatient.
Can't be too impatient, can't be too slow. Herald now going to reset, and the window is closed, really. Dorn can just TP up now. Kingen now has to return to the bottom lane. Dorn with a TP advantage can use his TP to come to the fight. So again, small trades continuously going in the favor of Gen G in this instance, and Zeka, well, it was pretty massively ahead. Chovy getting farm on these side lanes has been steadily catching up.
He has got a shutdown on himself now, 150 gold, only down 10 CS, so that window's closed like I talked about. Zeka has to catch top, Kingen has to catch bot lane, and the Herald will go over. I expect that to be used in the mid lane. Try and take down that mid tower to stop the Cajun from being able to walk up. Oh, this poke. Varus is doing so much work and getting that mid push as well, isn't it? Ruler, of course, he's famous for the Varus. Actually, hang on a second.
Down, big damage, picking up supports. Not quite enough. The healing coming in from Lehens opts to empower the snare, so gets the initial healing there. Pyosik, patience on the sidestep. Is Ruler just fishing, maybe hoping to catch the dash?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he was looking for. Looked a bit awkward, but was hoping that maybe Pyosik would backstep and then kind of jump towards the backside, and maybe they could pick up the kill that way. Won't hurt him too much. There's no objectives to fight over, so that'll be back up. And it was the Varus ult from Ruler that solidified the World Championship, that actually caught out Faker in the mid lane on the Karma, and that's what pushed him to that world title. Of course, there's 2 world champions in this game, Ruler and Beryl, staring at each other opposite ends on the bot lane. Chovy, though,
fishing for the 1v1, will find it. Dash being matched for Dash. Everfrost for Everfrost. Trading back and forth, but Chovy still on the hunt. Chovy still fishing for more, but Zeka will make it out.
Nerves of steel from Zeka. Doesn't panic flash the chain. Knows he'll be alright. Knows it won't connect. DRX now pressuring on this bot side, and despite this lane lead that Zeka has built up for himself, he's actually losing out on the side, and when Chovy can take away that ultimate. Kingen right now, Pyosik right now is on 3 stacks. Needs 1 more to push himself to that 4. It's on the Gromp, but he can't find his way into the bot side jungle, so Gen G are going to force towards mid. Zeka has the TP, Chovy does not.
And this is the struggle of playing against Gen G when they deny so many avenues. Against Denwankia, it felt like a brawl. Left and right, trades back and forth, but here against DRX, Gen G are bleeding them out. No avenues of attack, no options to come back in. And we look back to the start of the game, so much of this comes down to Peanut, the early jungle pathing, isolating the bot lane. And while Pyosik tried to force the play on the bottom side, the second that went awry, it felt like Gen G were in absolute control. The one sliver of hope that DRX were really holding on to was Zeka, was his individual advantage, but it just has not amounted to anything greater than a laning lead.
Yeah, they're going to have to look for team fights around these dragons soon. The problem is, when you play with Caitlyn, the reason the push is so important is because then when you're first to the dragon, you can have a trap set up. Pyosik
over the wall, fishing out for Lehens, forcing the flash out early. Peanut now gonna find an angle there. Pyosik goes right back over. Maybe gonna look to commit a little bit more here. Dorn in the area as well. Chovy in top lane. Pyosik wants Lehens. Will be spotted out here. Play will stop there, but fishing for that opportunity, taking the flash away from the Karma. Big in the fights to follow him. Pyosik wants to keep this one going. He's got the Kraken Slayer. He does good damage. He knows that in the long fight, he can take down Doran.
This is great for DRX because now this mid push will mean that they can move towards bot. That tower is still available and Pyosik trying to push Doran back. We'll see if Genji has a response. Chovy has the TP. I don't think they can step up too far for this because next mid wave's coming in. Baron spawning soon. They need to make sure they have some kind of topside vision. So Doran will clear out the wave. Flash down on Lehens will mean that DRX can look to punish that later on around these neutral fights, but DRX want to keep this Dragon set up. 40 seconds on the spawn. Everyone's going to base. Genji coming out of base as well. Pings on the Baron, though. You can see all those pings on the minimap on the top side. I wonder what DRX are thinking. Def just picking up that rapid fire. 2 items on the Caitlyn. Ruler has the 2 items as well.
I mean, you do have double 80 carries, essentially. Can shred through that objective, but I still think it's going to take much too much time. But maybe a Desperation Baron, maybe sneaking something away is an avenue for now. Pyosik holding on to control on the bottom side of the map, looking to take down this Scuttle Crab. Right as a mark respawn, looks like that's going to be his 4th.
Yeah, that's big for the Kindred. But the thing is, they need Caitlyn in here. They need Def to get down towards this river so they can place the traps down. Caitlyn pushes in lane, puts down traps, and makes it so it's hard for face checks to happen. But Genji have already found their way in. They've gone through bot. Peanut's already in the river. Vision contest coming in. Zeka TPing back with the Banshees.
Fight's going to be big. Chovy taking away the ulti. DRX going to try to set up the pseudo frontline, use the traps, gain point control they can. Right now, fishing. Ruler going to get caught out over the wall. Zeka desperate to get a sidestep on the Lux. That's the Youmuu's Ghost play. The extra movement speed, taking him out to safety. Genji pulling back for now. Brief pause. 5K. Dragon getting lower. Junglers with smites this time around, wanting to go in, wanting to get a little bit more. Who will take it? In the end, it's ticking, it's resetting, but the Kindred will smite it and take it down, and now the fight turns as Kingen on the backside. DRX standing, 4 members strong, pushing in. They want to break Genji. Kingen going over the wall, will get locked up. Nobody going to fall in the end, but it is the Dragon to DRX.
DRX push Genji back for the first time in this series. Ruler getting caught by the binding by Zeka, forcing him out the fight, meaning that it's basically a 4v5 from the get-go. The Dragon reset making the situation extremely awkward, but DRX get what they came for, losing a couple flashes on their solo layers, but forcing them back onto Genji.
Ruler returning to mid lane. Atlanta, hope begins to build once again. Hungry ever for more action. You gotta fight with no kills. They want to see more.
And DRX, they have a lot of standing gold. Top tier 1, bot tier 1, they just need side push. It's a very different game from game 1. Beryl.
Locked down, Beryl clean binding over the wall. Ruler coming in, Peanut flashing to the side. Beryl flashing out to safety, knowing the ult would be the end of him. Ulti will not connect.
Look at Zeka. TP behind, that's
King
King.
is going to be
Peanut's in trouble.
Would be everything. Peanut running. Kicking off to the side, the Beryl's going to be big. Zaka now leaping forward. Zaka trying to land everything. It looks like he's going to take down Lehens. Lehens still standing. Lehens still alive.
Oh,
Peanut finding him. Kingen finding one. Kingen looking for a few more, baby. That's the power of the Gragas, and Pyosik will live to see another day. Blocking him down the dash forward, the traps, it just keeps coming, but it's Chovy up to the side with the Lux Laser, big damage, but not enough to finish the kill.
2-1 on the kill score. DRX pick up 2. Massive TP flank there from King and Zeka with the gap close. Summoners blown, and again Peanut loses his flash. Beryl, on the tip, they're almost falling to Genji, who will pick up this tower. Lux Laser won't be enough to slow down the push, and the game goes back to a state of basing and vision control. DRX managed to punish Genji this time around, and they're going to look to do so once again.
Credit to DRX, they've been finding the avenues, they've been finding the angles, they've been holding on despite a very difficult early game. Tracking now the items as we return. 2 on the Caitlyn, the extra range, but you can see how hard it is when these arrows connect from Ruler. In a game of auto attacks, Caitlyn's going to win every time, but if it's just about those abilities, Ruler is hitting like a truck. Only King can really weather the storm. Beryl, Zeka, Deft will have to be so incredibly careful. Pyosik as well. And now the Baron and the sights of Genji that got set up. It's absolute darkness. The blue ward being used, but Genji waiting, hungry.
Zeka pushing out top. Pyosik actually stayed on the bot side of the map. He picked up the blue buff, which had a mark on it. Genji really want to start this Baron up, but they don't have damage for it. Poke Varus can't get Baron down quickly. Sylas is not something like an Azir that can burn it down. They can only threaten it, and they need to make DRX walk into them, but they don't take the bait. Pyosik gets another stack on the back half of that. Peanut will pick up the Wolves to deny the next one. Let's take a look at the replay here. Peanut wants to smite away, I believe the big Raptor, or tried to take it away. Binding connects, trap connects, all the damage lands onto him. The E there, 90 caliber net to get the auto attack in. The ultimate means that
picture in picture, live screen, the play now going out. Peanut may have been cut out again, leaping forward. That's going to be the pick. DRX,
that's massive. DRX are going to push it mid. That's a free tower.
Going to be big. DRX, the siege now continues. The power of the Caitlyn finally online. The sieging potential of the double 80 carries. They will break open mid-tier 2. Atlanta comes alive. They are ready for more. They are ready for the 5-game series, and it starts with DRX taking more and more advantages here.
And it starts with Kingen. Saw Peanut on the Wolves there while we went to the replay, actually finds him on the pick. Deft follows up with the ultimate and the Gale Force. Second they pushed down mid there and got the tower. DRX were pinging sideways. They need to push out these sides. Gold still down for DRX, but the game feels very even. DRX have so much playmaking tools, and this is what they lacked in game 1. Ways to gap close and connect onto Gen G. Sitting on 2 dragons similar to last game, but this time around it's an Infernal Soul. This time it's something that they can force and fight around. 45 seconds on this next dragon. DRX looking to take bases, looking to set up.
And they certainly are not out of the woods yet. Banshee's Veil here, very strong for Zeka to mitigate some of that initial poke. You can see Shadow Flame on the opposite side for Chovy. Surely a death cap to follow. This will be one terrifying Sylas. Crowd alive here, ready for more. 22 seconds on the Infernal. Peanut clearing out what vision he can. DRX taking control of the mid lane for now. Very easy for Ruler to just one-shot the wave. But this is the setup we talked about. This is what is so important when you have a Caitlyn on your team laying down the trap line. Cadril, you highlighted it so many times.
A lot of question mark pings in the bot side jungle here. Chovy has TP. He could TP behind DRX right now and sandwich them. The trap line is buying time to make it so Gen G have to go through bot, but right now he's pushing onto this top tier 2. Gen G have to fight this though. They're going to be on soul point. There's the TP. There's the double TP. DRX on the dragon.
Peanut up to the side. He wants to make it over the wall. He wants to steal it, but it will not happen yet. Doran in enemy territory. DRX taking their 3rd dragon.
And they're out. They're gone. The top tier 2 is still alive. That's double global from Gen G and no fight to happen. Dragon over to DRX, and now they're going to move in towards the top side. Doran gets hit by the binding, but no real follow-up here. Gen G must be a little bit frustrated with this. They invested so much and got nothing from this play.
Ruler just has not been able to hit an arrow. DRX giving him so much respect in these exchanges, taking the Scuttle Crab, returning to the mid lane. Have to be careful about walking in on this one. Gen G determined to get something back. DRX finally able to fight fire with fire in this game. No longer just letting Gen G bleed them out. It will no longer be death by 1,000 cuts. Gen G are going to have to fight fist to fist in this one.
Gen G kind of have their backs against the wall in a sense right now because DRX will wait. They will just wait 4 minutes and they will fight an Infernal Soul. And Gen G have the option of 1, try to force a Baron, but it's very hard with Sylas and Varus, or 2, play the waiting game with them and see this Caitlyn get an Infinity Edge. That's the biggest hurdle that they're going to have to overcome. It's so hard to bait DRX into these objectives, into this Baron, because DRX know they can't finish it. They know they don't have the innate DPS, but eventually they're just going to have to do it, I think, after they take these bases and pick up these next cores. Chovy getting close to that Rabadons. Forces will come through. DRX need to keep mid-push, though. Pyosik in trouble.
Burn angle. Pyosik locked down the snare. Surely going to connect now. Pyosik can throw down the Lamb's Rest, but it's Doran from over the wall. Pyosik sidestepping. The healing now going to come in. Oh! But the combo is clean! Ruler and Peanut stand together. Collateral damage. The arrow from Varus. They will find the enemy jungler.
Incredible range there. Pyosik had the flash, but he doesn't flash in time. Jungler down for 30 seconds. Could this be the window for Gen G to force it up? King and low on mana has the ultimate. Is going to base in TP. Gen G will take this window and they will force DRX to respond. Caitlyn ults for poke onto Beryl. Zeka has the ultimate. Kingen is back here. Lehens and Ruler looking for a target. Ruler no flash though.
Ruler caught out, knocked back into the wall. It's going to be a big laser! But it won't finish the job. It's just a support Lux. Doran getting pushed out of this one. And again, they don't have the damage to force the Baron, and DRX know it, so they move into the pit. They are fishing for the kill. Zeka leaping forward, looking to lock Doran down. The flashback of the wall. It's Chovy on the backside, but it's Chovy in turn who will be locked up. He's ignited. He dashes out. He's ready to dash back in, but it was not the right call. The shutdown for Deft.
48 seconds on the superstar mid laner of Gen G. DRX have so much time to work with, and you can see it right there. Gen G, despite getting a pick onto the enemy jungler, they just can't get the Baron down enough to merit DRX actually being forced to walk in. So they play the range game. Ruler lost his flash, so easy target for Kingen. DRX are not going to force Baron on the back half of that. There's still a top tier 1 up. There's still a bot tier 1 up, and this all comes off the back of Piosik getting caught out. Doesn't panic though, saves the flash, uses the ultimate, and look at Ruler here on the right-hand side. Gets picked off by Deft, forces his flash out. Piosik dies, but Gen G crumble and fall apart around that Baron.
And the combo is clean, the timing's clean to finish the enemy jungler, but we saw in that play the strengths and weaknesses. The strengths, the poke, how quickly they can kill someone. The weaknesses, they cannot do this Baron, but they chose to start it anyway.
Chovy here dashing out, but that chain, did he really want that one to land? Maybe if he got the W in, he could maybe sustain through the Caitlyn ult, but the Gragas E stopped that from happening. Deft, 3 items strong now. Infinity Edge Caitlyn, despite losing the lane phase and being down 40 CS, he is incredibly strong in this mid to late game transition now. And all that time we've spent fighting around this Baron has given more time for this Dragon to spawn. 1 minute 20 seconds on that one. DRX are going to look to get vision around it, look to secure it. Even in a 50-50 scenario, they'll take that because that's going to stay there for the rest of the game. Gen G struggling to find responses. They're going to try to go through mid here to deny the trap setup from DRX because Zeka, still on this top side, hasn't taken his base. Doran coming through the mid lane now for Gen G. They'll group up as 5. Chovy with the bot push as well. 1 minute left on this Dragon.
Gen G doing everything they can to make sure that they can get control of the bottom side of the map. And you can see, again, the power of the poke from Varus. And Gen G have the setup. If they are free to rain down these arrows from afar, they can take fights, they can find picks, they can win the exchanges. But if DRX get the setup, if the Caitlyn traps go down, it is so difficult, it is so hard for Gen G to fight their way in. Now they stand as 5. They will not be split in the next one. Everything on the line for this Infernal Soul.
30 seconds. Peanut. Is he going to find Kingen? Playing with confidence. Chovy's going to push out bots. Look at Zeka though. Zeka's going for an incredible flank around the side. Ruler has no flash. This could be a big, this could be a big
damage. The clutch over the line. Fall of Ruler. Taken out of the fight, but they don't quite have the damage to finish it. Now instead, turning back to Doran. Taking the Ornn out of the equation. The ulti will hit nobody. Zeka! Ruler! Zeka! Remember his name! It was his landing advantage. It was his charm. And it was his charm again. But Peanut can be the difference maker. He can look to turn it, but he will not take the risk. Instead, it will be Inferno for DRX.
And they're going to move towards the Baron, and they're going to get this top tier 1. Gen G realize they cannot enter the top side of the map, so they'll try to pressure instead. Kingen has the TP. They might get this bot tier 3, but DRX will get so much more. The dive coming in, though.
They overstayed. Kingen is now going to make it out. They need to trade this back for a major objective. Deft and Piosik burning through it as quickly as they can, but now it's all high-stakes League of Legends. Every single choice putting them closer and closer to death. Gen G taking the inhibitor, the parent now going to be the trade in the end, the Baron and the Infernal for a single inhibitor. DRX feeling good at the end of the day.
It's a consolation prize. They won't really mind about that inhibitor. They have a Baron buff and they have TP on King, and he'll just sit on bot and just push out these waves. This is 5 minutes of DRX domination. Who'd have thought off the back of their regular season, losing to KT, losing to Hanwha Live, losing in the first round of playoffs. 5-game series both times to even get here in the first place, and now up against the LCK first seed. T1 couldn't even take them down in the finals. They're sitting in a very, very good spot to take a win here to even up the series. Kingen will buff up these bot lane creeps, push in the waves. Bot tower's alive, but it's Zeka all the way. Flanks onto Ruler, finds a vision pocket, gets his summoners out. And then the knockback means that they turn onto Dora, and Zeka gets the reset on the charge, and then he decides to just send it, dashes forwards, E-flash, just gets on the AD carry of Gen G. The world champion falls and DRX rise.
A beautiful, beautiful play. You can see the joy, the elation on the faces of the DRX staff. But again, remember, the DRX, while they are barreling down the bottom lane, while they do have so many advantages, they are not out of the woods yet because Gen G has not lost to this team this year. They have had bigger leads and they have lost those games. So for DRX, it's eyes on the prize. They have to stay focused in this match.
DRX have been through the trenches to get here. So many 5-game series, regional and international. Up against EDG, they managed to pull off the reverse sweep. Push in bot here, push in mid. Zeka doesn't have the TP, Kingen does. They haven't started the siege just yet, finding it difficult to find the setup. A lot of poke coming out from Gen G is negating a lot of it. No Bloodthirster onto Deft just yet, means he can't lifesteal through this poke. 3 minutes, 40 seconds though, on an Elder Dragon. We know exactly what that Dragon buff can do. It can turn the tide of an entire game, despite how far behind you are. And despite looking at an Infernal Soul, Gen G need to buy time for that Dragon to spawn. If they can steal that, that could change everything.
And for now, the map resets. DRX, a minute left on the Baron. The Infernal buff will stay, but this Baron will fade away. Take a deep breath, Atlanta. We got time. We got a 3-minute timer in your corner. That is when it will become do or die. In the meantime, it'll be fishing for picks. It'll be looking for angles. It'll be fighting for vision, picking up waves, and looking for those final items. Perhaps DRX aren't content to wait. For now, pushing in, taking vision, looking to gain control over the map.
Kindred sitting on 7 stacks now. Piosik does a lot of damage in these fights. So what happened with this Baron buff? With 30 seconds remaining on that buff, they've taken 2 side lane tier 1s. They're looking for this top tier 2 as well. DRX want to push it mid and move towards top. Poke coming in from Ruler doesn't do too much damage. Plated steel caps onto Piosik. Will pick up the red buff as well to get that innate regen on his health bar. This is basically the last Baron buffed up wave. And Gen G will clear it out. The siege has stopped. DRX will back away. But they sit with a hefty gold lead and that Infernal Dragon Soul.
And how quickly the stakes have risen, and again, you highlighted how much DRX have been through to get to this series, to get to this match. But even in this game, it felt lost at times in that early game. The bottom side being shut down. The Caitlyn Lux, though, coming to their own in this mid game, partly on the back of Piosik and most certainly Zeka. Highlight moments from this man across the match.
As well as Kingen. He's been finding so many picks for DRX. He's been the one setting it up or following up enough to make sure they can get these kills, and Zeka with that final fight, making sure they can get this soul in the first place. Gen G are stalling. They're waiting. They're buying time for this Elder Dragon, sorry, so they can find their next fight. Chovy looking for some kind of flank though, has the Ari ultimate. Ruler just picked up the Cyril, that's 4 items lethality. Poke Varus now will dish out a lot of damage, but the later the game goes on, the more it falls off. 6 items Poke champions never do too well, because at that point you have defensives, you have Warmogs, you have full frontline tanks that can soak it up, you have lifesteal, so Ruler will be about as strong as he'll get for the rest of the game.
And without any setup CC, especially against a Gale Force on the opposite side, there's just so much movement speed. If you're just raw throwing arrows, it's very unlikely they'll hit. You have to throw them from Fog of War, you have to wait for some initial CC. Chovy now fishing for a pick on the Piosik. But it was just the Ari ult expiring, I believe, so not overcommitting here. Piosik actually the one who wants to kick things off. Just gonna get another charge out in that TP. Zeka's gonna be spotted though.
Yeah.
This is not quite the glorious flank he was hoping for. And Gen G with priority access onto the Infernal. DRX have put themselves in a very tricky position. A minute still left to the objective, but all of the vision right now belonging to Gen G.
Gen G realize they cannot go through mid, so they have to go through bot. Chovy's been having the side push the majority of the game. The inhib's down, so they can keep these waves towards DRX's side of the map, which gives them a pocket to play a vision. But look at DRX, they're just barreling down mid. 40 seconds on that Elder Dragon spawn. They want to take the inhibitor, force Gen G to base from that bot side respawn, but Zeka
careful, leaping in, forcing the flash out from Chovy, turning their attention instead. Everybody is recalling on the side of Gen G. DRX have caught their opponents sleeping. And we'll look to take this inhibitor down, uncontested. But meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, it is Peanut. Peanut trying to get a little bit more done. It's the 1v1 versus the top laner. Does he have the power? But no. Kingen just trying to buy time, just playing, maximizing the value out of the Infernal Soul procs.
Yep, he's playing around his cooldowns here, Kingen trying to chunk out Peanut as much as possible. DRX get the inhibitor, Peanut gets the bot wave in so deep that they can TP through bot, they have a vision pocket, they can play towards it, Ruder's gonna start it up. Gen G want a 50-50, they want DRX to flip this dragon, it's their only way back in the game. Will DRX give it to them? Where will Kingen TP? He's gonna TP in the pick. The stare down from Gen G, they want to finish this, but they don't have the health bars to tank it up. The poke, it's gonna miss. No flash on Chovy. Zeka, DRX are buying time for his ultimate.
There's no more room for split calls. It is Chovy on the bottom side. Chovy pushing for more. Chovy potentially looking to try and end or just at least leverage this wave in the bot lane, take open and take down that exposed inhibitor.
This is great from Chovy. They should be able to pick up this inhib. DRX have to force this. Zeka has stayed. He could look to end. DRX need to get this down quickly. Chovy doesn't have the TP, but he could end the game. Kingen's here. No TP. It's the 4v4.
As well. They're trying to force the fight. It could all come down to a 50-50. Piosik versus Peanut in the pit, but they're trying to zone him away. Doran already getting chipped away. Chovy running the fight to the side of DRX. Redemption could end now, but Peanut, no! He's buying time. Piosik, you madman, you genius, holding on to hope. A lamb's respite, indeed, buying the dragon a brief break so they can take it down in the end, but still, Chovy remains standing. One man versus the world. Will he be enough?
Never one without the other. Piosik on Kindred keeps the dragon alive. Peanut smites into the Lamb's respite. DRX are looking to end this game to death. 1v2 against Ruderland. Barrels behind him.
No inhibitor this time. DRX and Deft will take the Elder
What a turnaround for DRX. That game one, they couldn't find a single play. But you give Zeka a playmaker, and he will give you some kills. Manages to find Ruler so many times in those fights. DRX get a lead, DRX stack the Dragons. And just a clean execution, no panic. On the end towards the Elder, they send Kingen back to base to deal with Chovy, and Piosik deals with Peanut.
Beautiful game, beautiful comeback from DRX again. The start of that game, Peanut dissecting the map, splitting the map, the dominance that we saw.